Hello, this is Sebastian Lubers, and welcome to the tour through the TechnoSongGenerator patch program in MaxMSP. The purpose of this patch is to generate a techno-style song based on several algorithms. I will not explain every operation in depth simply because it would take too long, but rather give an overlook on the concept. When you open the patch, this simple interface will appear. Pressing the white panel here will trigger the generator, and after a short loading time, a song will be audible, as it can be seen in my other video that demonstrates the functionality of a patch. When you exit the presentation mode, you can see that the toggle here, the white panel, goes into a subpatch called Creator. Over here, there's a small section to record the output, and this section here disables the pop-up. The Creator subpatch can be seen as a command line of the generator. There's a tempo section up here, which can vary between 140 and 145 BPM per song. Next to it is the harmony subpatch, where the scales and root note are determined. There are 6 scales to choose from: major, minor, harmonic minor, minor major, pentatonic, and Egyptian. The root key is determined here. The root key can be any of the 12 notes within an octave. The change subpatch here determines if there will be changes in harmony and when they will occur. The counter here is a metronome of a song, and 1 1 through equals 1 musical bar. It goes from 0 to 15. The resolution is there for 16th notes. Beneath the metronome is the instrument section, which I will explain more detail later on. Next to it, you find the structure section. Each instrument has its toggle. When it's ticked, the instrument is audible, otherwise it is muted. To make the music of the harmonic instrument smoother, there are these 3 patches down here that make the sound fade out before muting. All instruments gather here at outlets 1 or 2 and are routed to the output module here, the main patch. The song structure subpatch determines, as the name suggests, how the song will be structured. It is said that each song starts with the intro and ends with the outro patch. The order of the other parts is calculated in the order subpatch, which is here. At first, the number of parts is calculated. Over here, there's an order with a list that is randomized at the beginning of each song. The information about the order is then sent to a gate over here that routes the program's metronome, which comes through the second inlet, to the matching song part patch. The inside of these patches consists first of a number of bars for how long the patch will be active, which is here, and an algorithm to determine which tracks will be disabled, which is here and here. The intro section builds up a song starting with one of few tracks and then adding more in the process. When the set maximum of bars is reached, a signal is sent to activate the next part. The main part works similar to the intro patch. Lead bass, bass drum, and at least one further rhythm section always play here, while pad and more rhythmic tracks might be disabled during this part. The full part is pretty straightforward. All instruments play at the same time until the next part is activated. The bridge part is actually a breakdown. Only a predetermined number of harmonic instruments played first until the rhythm section is gradually added. In the end comes obviously the outro, where instruments are gradually muted to create a fade out. After all instruments have been muted, a signal is sent to stop the patch actually. In the presentation mode, you can see that the cross is unticked, and after 5 seconds, the next song is started to be generated automatically. I will now have a look at the instrument section here. Each patch will get harmonic information from the harmony patch and information about the parts being played from the song structure page. Lead patch is separated into melody and voice. In the beginning, it's determined whether it will be only lead, which is one, or a mix in between. In the latter case, in this section here, it is calculated in which parts of the song it will be lead, voice, or a question response like duet. Down here, the mode for the lead instrument is generated, which I'll explain in a second. So this is the lead section. In the beginning of each song, a set of notes is generated and loaded into these two multi-sliders, each representing one bar. However, not all notes are played. This subpatch here, lead structure, chooses which ones will be played and which ones muted. This information is then sent into this table here, where it is linked with the scale information sent from the harmony patch, and thereafter combined with the root key information. This signal then goes into the synth patch, where it is formatted into MIDI information that can be read by an external synthesizer plugin. I used elements by waves, so this patch will only produce sound if you have this plugin installed on your system. In the beginning of each song, one of these 10 presets here are chosen. You can see that it changes here when I press one of these presets. There's a second way of producing MIDI information in this patch. This section here is the arpeggiator. At first, a chord is produced in this small patch here, which is then sent to the arpeggiator here. I have downloaded this patch from the MaxMSP community. It has been developed by Andrew McKay. I altered the patch in a way that it will be controlled by information sent from this section here. It determines whether the melody or the ARP or a combination of both is played. It can also alternate the ARP settings in real time, which can result in quite crazy lead solos, but also some smooth repetitive melodies. The voice patch works with pre-recorded samples. These are all different poems in different languages, read by different people, that I cut after each verse, and then will be tribbed consecutively at the start of each bar, obviously if voice is activated. Thereafter, there is an option of them being sent to a vocoder where the voice is roboterized, like obviously what a vocoder does. I downloaded this patch from the community as well. It was created by a guy called Sam Tarakajian. Whether the vocoder is applied or not, the signal is then set to this beep reverb here, which is included in the MaxMSP 7 package. Or outputs then go into this small patch here. It's a mixer patch where equalizers and a compressor is applied. Again, I use the Renaissance package from Wave plugins. So if you don't have these, you won't be able to fully use this whole program, unfortunately. Let's go on. Let's have a look over here. This is the pad. As you can see, it looks quite similar to the lead patch. The notes here orientate on the drums. The first note of each bar is always right at the beginning, and the second is wherever the clap is played. I programmed the first note to be in the root key to avoid too many dissonant harmonies. Again, all immediate information is created from these two sliders here and then sent to a synthesizer just like before. There's 10 presets, synthesizer here. Which is different, there's a small section here which creates a gate-like effect by pressing the volume down by 10 decibel. If you press this, you can see it moving. The patterns are determined in this small patch. It can also be deactivated though. Again, this depends on the sections played. From the beginning, it is determined whether there will be a gated effect or not. This is the bass patch. This looks very similar again. 2 bars are created, sent it to the synthesizer. This pattern here orientates on the snare hits, but there's an alternative bass here. Constantly played 8 and changes a note every time the clap is played, just like the pad patch. There's also the option that every second note is played in an octave higher, which creates a very typical electro bass pattern. Again, information of which pattern is played is determined in the beginning and can change when the bridge part is played, like shows here. Let's move on to the drum section, which works with samples. Again, there is 10 samples to choose from for each component of a drum set. There's 2 possible bass drum patterns. They both orientate on this very typical techno beat, which is on every hit like ns, ns, ns. This pattern here has the option of having hits in between to create a certain groove. This one is a simpler, very simple, straightforward beat. Let's go on over here. The drum pattern is snare and clap. The algorithm makes sure that there's always 2 snare hits and 1 clap in between. But it also makes sure that the snare hits are not too far away from each other or not too close, so it will be a good rhythm. There is an alternative drum pattern which can be added on top of the original one. Looks like this. It will add a snare hit before the originally first snare hit and can then add claps in the free spaces and also one behind, which is not generated now, but is possible to be generated. The information of these patterns are sent outside the patch because they are used by the bass and pad patch. The hi-hat patch is quite straightforward again. It's based on this very typical techno hi-hat, which is always in between the bass drum hits. There's an open hi-hat hit in the beginning. The closed ones are in between the bass drums, which can be surrounded by hits, which creates a certain kind of groove. This section here is triggered whenever the bridge part is played. It's a hit that kind of introduces the bridge breakdown. Also, whether it's only the simple drum pattern of these two combined or an alternation of them, it can be determined here and can change throughout the song. However, when both of the snare drum patterns are played, they can be played together because I made sure that they will not overlap. But when they play together, I made also sure that they will only play with a simple bass drum pattern, so the beat will not be too overloaded. So this is basically how the patch works. I hope you liked the tour. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. Have a look at the other video where you can see generated songs, listen to them. That's it.